In continuing with our discussion on music, we found out the clefs, we found out where notes go, and the lines. And next, what we have to do is something else, which is very essential. Now, everything we've done so far, we've kept it in what's called the regular part on the piano that you start with C. As you see right here on the piano, you start with C and you go up through. Now, you'll notice the black notes in between. This is the regular scale, and every step is a half step. From this white note to the black is a half step. From the black to the white is a half step. Notice that between these two, there's no black note. That is a half step because there's no black note between it. And this is also a half step. So you see that 1, 2, 3, the third and the fourth note are a half step, and the sixth and the seventh note are a half step. All the rest of these are whole steps because you've blacked that black one in between, so that's a whole step. Now that's the C major chord. That's the normal chord you play on the piano when you start with middle C, or any C for that matter. Now, here's what's necessary if you don't start on C, middle C, high C, low C. You always have to have that same kind of scale where there is a half step between the third and the fourth, and a half step between the fifth and the sixth, on the sixth and the seventh. But the rest of them are whole steps because in between each one of those is a black key. Now, what if you start in a different key? For example, what if you would start on G instead of C? When you went up through that scale, you would notice that there is the same things as far as half and whole steps go. Between 3 and 4, that's a half step. And between 7 and 8 is not a half step. Therefore, if it's not a half step, you have to raise up one note to one of those black keys in order to do that. What is that called? That's called a sharp. A sharp looks like this. This is what you put before a note if you want to make it a little higher than it was before. See that right there? That figure is called a sharp on the piano. So you can see on the piano here, right above that note, there's a little white tab. That means that's the sharp right there. So you have that note, then this one instead of the regular right in between, because that has to be a half step right in there, you see? And a whole step right there. Otherwise, it would have been a half step. So the sharp is necessary if you start in a different key. In fact, you can go through every key and go up a fifth. C to G is a fifth. That's one sharp. G to D is a fifth. You add another sharp. D to A is a fifth. You add another sharp. So as you go through keys, once you start getting out of C, in order to make those steps correct, they have to have sharps. Now, there is another alternative as well. What if you start on a note as a black step? How do you look at that? And what do you do to make it look like that? Well, there are sharps, which I just showed you, which make a note go up a half step. Now, the other thing is called a flat. A sharp goes up a half step. A flat goes down a half step. So that's the difference. Now we will show you those in a moment.